Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and this bird is just like following me all the time, and he's been squawking at me. So, hello, bird. Okay, return to me. So, um, I'm just done with my autism diagnosis course, which was 6 times 2 hours each, and we were about 8 participants, except that 2 like fell off. So no, we were like maybe 9 people, and then 2 fell off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So okay, we were 9, and then 2 fell off, and mostly girls or women, because this was for late diagnosed autistic people. So we were all adults, and we all got our diagnosis as an adult, except for one person who got their diagnosis when they were 17. Yeah, so I think that it was a really good course, but it wasn't due to what I was learning about autism, because I've done so much research about autism, obviously, but it was learning about other people's difficulties and other people's experiences that was really, really helpful. And we could bounce off each other's ideas, and I thought that that was invaluable information to just, and also to just be in a space where autistic people get to speak to each other, you know? And we had the course leaders, which was a psychotherapist and a physiotherapist. Yeah, we had a little bit of a pause in between those 2 hours, and I think that it was really nice. Okay, here I've got a page which is just like different tips. If you might recognize that book, which I actually did a series on this channel about that book. To be honest, nothing really, really life-changing. But let's just go very quickly around the different parts. The number one was what is autism, the expectations for the course, the diagnostic criteria, how it might be difficult, difference between inside and outside, positive and negatives with autism, and positives and negatives with having the diagnosis of autism. Nothing really new there. It might be, a lot of people don't really know about autism, so that was a big difficulty. But we might be nicer to ourselves. Some of the people there had been through a burnout, and some people there had children, some people there were in relationships, some weren't. So it can be really difficult for an autistic people to be in the world, but certain things that are easy for an autistic person might be difficult for a neurotypical person. Nothing new there. The second time we talked about different way of seeing the world, different context, different things with empathy and feelings. So we talked about mentalization, seeing what other people think and feel. I'm not really sure where I feel on this topic. We had a difficulty when when other people don't understand us, that there's a misunderstanding. We might have a difficulty with answering open questions, and also like talking about our lives, because our lives might be so very difficult from other people's. Strategies is to imitate how other people did, but also to ask people to be more clear in their communication. Strategies to compensate is to be clear and prepared, that we can decide what to talk about. We don't need to react to what everybody else says. To ask how long we can stay, to say that we don't have a lot of energy and that we can't stay very long, and be open with our difficulties. A lot of autistic people are oblivious to certain things. Anyway, we talked about empathy. We talked about alexithymia. We talked about difficulties with social rules and social cues and that kind of thing. We talked about masking. We had very different ways of presenting and different ways of being and different problems that came up. We talked about some people took different roles. Some people stimmed when the person in the room would always have their headphones on. The other person and would draw a lot. The other person would create like origami. And I was swaying kind of from side to side. I kind of like doing that. Some people bounce with their leg. We did talk a little bit about stimming. We talked about automatization, which is very difficult for autistic people. And it doesn't come naturally as it does to neurotypical people. So we have a hard time with certain things, executive dysfunction. Number 3, we talked about context and how central coherence, I mean, I've already talked about this, but here there's a picture of an A, but the thing is, if you look closer, you might see that these are stars. An autistic person, if they're told like, okay, what do you see? A neurotypical person might just say, oh, it's an A. Well, for an autistic person, they might not see like, what is important for me to say at this moment? Is this, you might say, oh, it's an A that is composed out of stars. And the neurotypical person will be like, oh, I don't care that it's composed of stars, it's an A. Who cares that it's composed out of stars? Which, you know, I don't know how good this is of an example. In our class, we went through like a picture of a street. It was, as we were like, a neurotypical person would say, like, you would show the picture of a street, and the neurotypical person would reply to, what is this? It's a street. But an autistic person might say, oh, it looks, for me, I was like, it looks like a street that's in Italy due to the architecture, which, is going a little bit too far. Or another person was a little bit more metaphorical and was like, oh, I think that it's a metaphor for showing that there's a dark side and a light side, meaning there's a difference between neurotypical people and neurodivergent people. Another person thought, oh, it's that we choose different paths in life, when really it was just a picture of a street and we weren't supposed to be looking more into it. But we see context differently because of our autism. And in other situations, we might assume less than neurotypical people due to us, not having a very... Neurotypical people have a very, have templates and a certain sense of context wherever they go, but their sense is much less detail-oriented. They gave us an example of we have different concepts of different things. So neurotypical people might see watching TV, the sentence watching TV, they might see it differently. Because we might think, watching TV is sitting in quiet and not eating and not looking at your phone. Well, a neurotypical person might think differently. Which leads to difficulty with context. Things that we recognize ourselves in is that we didn't really know how to behave in certain situations, and also when somebody said a word that we don't understand, we don't really know, the strategies that we used is to imitate once again and to ask if we don't understand a word. Then the 4th time we talked about sensory difficulties, and that neurotypical people and autistic people have different filters. So here is a picture of a neurotypical filter, which, certain things come in, but certain things get bounced off. Well, an autistic filter really has a lot of holes in it, so a lot of stuff comes in. So it's difficulty with all sorts of different things, but we all had different difficulties. Some people really loved hugs, some people hated hugs, some people liked having a very a light touch, some hated it, some liked having compression rather than light touch, and some people liked having sunglasses on, while some people liked having liked looking at lights. Some people but a lot of things started coming up again and again, like taking the bus or going to the grocery store, and certain perfumes. But some people liked carrying a perfume around, There was this one problem that came up, was that there was this guy who was cleaning the floors right above us, and it made it impossible for us to concentrate, and one person actually felt like they were getting a headache due to this person. So we actually had to ask the course leader to go up a floor and ask the person to work on another room cleaning the floors rather than working right above us. It was kind of ironic because we were talking about sensory sensitivities right when he was doing that. But yeah, we talked a little bit about that, how we don't like when people talk all at the same time, when we're tired. Then we talked about a little bit how to take it easy, how to relax after being subjected to so much sensory difficulties. And it might be stimming, it might be listening to audiobooks or having things quiet, having noise cancelling headphones. Some people bought food online. Some people plan time before and after meetings. Number 5 was stress. What is stress? And we have a different functioning, so we have a different way of reacting to things, and we have difficulties in our daily life, which leads to stress, anxiety, rumination, depression, relationship problems, and we have a spiky skill set. And so we just talked about how this is our cup. Well, this is a neurotypical cup. Our cup is smaller and it's shorter, and each thing takes more space in the cup, and also many more things fill the cup. We're stressed about a lot more things. Today, one of the people in the group said that they had a very bad day, and basically it was that something didn't work out in their planning, and then they couldn't concentrate, and so then they came too early for a certain thing, and then they couldn't get any water to drink, so then they had to go to the store, and then they had to go and buy a yogurt, and then they couldn't get a spoon to eat with the yogurt because they were so stressed out that they couldn't ask the people to the people at the front desk are supposed to give you a spoon together with your yogurt, and then in the end this person couldn't eat the yogurt, and then I recognize that when it's like a really bad day, and then okay, the mug is cracking. So tips for stress. So the 6th time was how to deal with stress, and taking pauses, taking the car or walking instead of taking the bus, to sleep, to be alone, to take care of our special interests, to have sex, to shower, to listen to music, or to be in a quiet time, or being with our pets or with somebody that we can trust and that we love. So we had this chart to fill in about things that take energy versus things that give energy, and a lot of us are in the red for quite a lot of things. At the end there's a question of how much should we change ourselves for other people, which is a difficult question, because the best would be to not have to change for other people for neurotypical world, but we do live in a world that life will be impossible if we just act in a certain way all the time, and that we act like ourselves all the time. Everybody kind of needs to have a mask. It's just that for us it just takes so much of our energy and time. So we have to be mindful of how we use our energy. Then at the end there's some literature tips, which is the Autism Handbook, which we went through. Some really old books. One of them is Constant at Fika Arabiska, which I've already read. What's funny is that they recommend 2 YouTube channels, which are one of them is Asperger's from the Inside, which has since been changed to Autism from the Inside, which is Paul Micallef here on YouTube. I do recommend this channel. And Yo Samdi Sam, she doesn't make long form content anymore, but I found it interesting that those were the 2 that they chose. So good job, you. Then they recommended some TV series like Big Bang Theory and Temple Grandin film, which, yeah, I think that it's a little bit passé, a little bit dated. There's much better stuff, and you know, people are welcome on my channel if they want to learn about other autism books. And yeah, so I think that it was really good, but it wasn't from the actual content, because we already knew this. The actual best thing about this was talking to other autistic people. Did any of us decide to keep in touch after this course? No. But that's kind of on par with how autistic people are, you know. We were like, okay, well, we're not going to initiate a group discussion ourselves, you know. we're just going to go off on our separate ways, and we didn't, like, I don't feel a need to talk to these people anymore, you know. But I think it was very nice while it lasted, and I think that it was interesting because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, really, to be able to be a part of such a group. I know that in Stockholm they have Prisma, which is a very more structured kind of group course. In my region, this is what we have. I know that in a lot of countries you don't get anything after an autism diagnosis, so I think that this was good to have, but mostly due to the interaction with other autistic people. So tell me what you guys think, and have a great day, everybody. Bye.